Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Daily Objective. And today's a solo episode for me, so I'm going to need your help. Please participate in the chat or the left wins. I don't think you want that. I'm just joking around, but I was looking for topics possibly to talk about, and I saw in the news, you'll never believe this, Sarah Palin tested positive for COVID after dining in a New York restaurant. So I guess the point of that headline is to say that the restaurant needs to they're looking into their how to enforce their COVID policy now that Palin has tested positive and she's in New York in order to attend a trial in which she is suing the New York Times for defamation. So it doesn't surprise me if she has a good case against the New York Times. I'm not sure, but I'm guessing the New York Times did her wrong in one way or another. Sorry, there's music. Music just started playing out of my TV in back of me. It's nice to have the power to silence my TV, but it would not surprise me if it turns itself back on. So anyway, this is news now. Sarah Palin eats at restaurant and tests positive for COVID, right? What else is a headline? If Bob Saget dies and he's vaccinated, then the headline on the Candace Owens show is, I told you, people with vaccines are dying now. Yes, that's kind of how life goes. You're born, you live, and you die. Some of the people who die will have been vaccinated. This correlation is bound to happen. Anyway, this got me to sort of reflect back on the last something like 15 years now. It's like 12, 13 years since Sarah Palin was introduced to the American people. And I thought maybe we could kind of review what that was like and whatever came of all of that. So let's go back to the 2007, 2008 period. George W. Bush was on his way out of office, and Republicans had their primaries and the Democrats had their primaries. The Democrats, after a long and tense battle between Hillary Clinton and Obama got the nomination. And it was close. People really, really assumed that Hillary Clinton was the nominee because people said, oh, everyone loves Bill Clinton so much, then obviously his wife is going to be the nominee and then president. I mean, to everyone, a lot of people thought that was a no-brainer. A lot of people would have bet money on that. Anyway, Obama became the Democrat nominee. John McCain, who a lot of conservatives really resisted because they saw him as kind of middle of the road moderate. They wanted somebody more principled in the conservative ideology. So what would that mean? Someone who's going to be more strict with the borders. The anti-immigration approach was strong among conservatives. Conservative talk radio, Fox News, the anti-immigration, or how would they put it? It's not that they're anti-immigration, they're anti-illegal immigration. They want enforcement of the laws, is how they would put it. So they wanted someone who was strict on that, someone who would be more on the free market side of things, somebody who would be lower with taxes. And at that time, they wanted somebody who would be hawkish in Iraq. Is hawkish the right word? They wanted somebody to stay in Iraq. Yeah, it's not that they were necessarily, you didn't hear a lot of conservatives saying we need to be much more hawkish than George W. Bush. Like we need to be much more focused and assertive. No, they basically were cheerleading for George W. Bush. And kind of what you were getting from Republican pundits was, yeah, the future in the Middle East is kind of like, Japan and Germany. We just need to have Americans stationed there forever, keeping the peace or something. Not that Americans are keeping the peace in Japan and Germany in present day, but that's kind of, I guess, the model they were hoping to follow. But nonetheless, conservatives and Republicans wanted to stay in Iraq, whereas, of course, Democrats very much wanted to leave. So John McCain, who was seen as more of a moderate, got the nomination. And who did he select as his running mate, as to be his vice president? He went with Sarah Palin, the governor of Alaska, as I recall. Who the heck was expecting that? So it was kind of a fleur de chess move, if you think about it, because everyone's wondering, oh, is the first woman or the first black man going to be president, right, on the Democrat side? And John McCain says, you want a woman? I'll give you a woman. So if Obama's running on the Democrat ticket, I'm going to bring you Sarah Palin. I mean, it's not, he never declared that that's why he chose her. But I mean, a lot of people were a little bit cynical, like, oh, so we're against identity politics, but you found this unknown woman in the middle of Alaska as your running mate. In any case, conservatives liked her. The prominent, Rush Limbaugh, Sean Hannity, Mark Levin, they were like saying, oh, this lady is the real deal. She's like, really, she's much better on economics than a lot of other Republicans. She's, I guess she's anti-immigration in her rhetoric. I'm not sure how much of an immigration problem they have in Alaska. I don't know if there's still a ice bridge with Russia, or if there's Canadians in North Canada storming across the border. But in her rhetoric, I suppose Palin was more strict on enforcing the immigration laws than someone like John McCain, who was seen as more of a kind of like looking the other way in the face of illegal immigration. And of course, Sarah Palin spoke, she talked the big talk about staying in Iraq and supporting the troops, and however she would put it and however Republicans would put it. So a lot of conservatives liked Sarah Palin. Now, was there something embarrassing about her? Yes. I mean, her dialect and presentation was what the kids today call cringe. That's how they would call her. Oh yeah, I'm a hockey mom. That's what she said. I'm a hockey mom. You don't want to mess with the hockey mom. Oh, I'm going to show those liberals what happens. I'm going to show those terrorists. You don't want to mess with a hockey mom. You know the difference between a hockey mom and a pit bull? Lipstick. Woo! The crowd loved that garbage. So it was not a great time to be a free market and sort of hawkish type of politically opinionated person, because who's representing you, right? You got these Republicans paying a lot of lip service to, beating the terrorists, but their actions only show, people like Bush sending troops into Iraq to set up shop there and just basically take a bunch of attacks and not actually assert themselves as needed to win a war. And, economically, yeah, George Bush bailed out banks and big companies. He said he's saving capitalism by sort of, I guess, violating its rules. I forget how Bush put it. But, I mean, it must have been a lonely time, right? I mean, glad things are much better today, right? No, wait. Things today are way worse. I mean, today there's virtually nobody singing my tune or yours if you're a free market and a assertive foreign policy hawk. So it was a rough time. So you had this, Sarah Palin showing up, very kind of mom next door type of dialect, and she was sort of seen as a hero for evangelicals. I don't know if her religion is, evangelical Christianity, but she's some type of Christian, outspokenly anti-abortion. This was a big thing. Her daughter got pregnant and got married to the father of, to the expectant father of her child. I don't know if, quote, if officially that's why they got married, but that's sort of what took place. And people kind of saw it as like, yep, that's what you do. You get pregnant, get married. Now, I'm a little bit, I'm sympathetic to the idea that it is in the interest of a child to grow up in a stable household with two parents and all of that. But I mean, shotgun weddings are not really how I would offer the best way to plan a family, but rather, how about, stick with me here, have an abortion if you didn't plan on getting pregnant, unless you already have a good environment to raise a child. But of course, so Sarah Palin was seen as this anti-abortion heroine, and Sarah Palin herself had a son in her 40s, I believe. And the older you are as a woman when you have a child, the more likely it is that child will be mentally disabled. Is that the way to put it? I'm not trying to mock or ridicule, but I think we're not supposed to say the R word anymore, which I have no problem with the R word. I think it's an effective word, but I'm not going to bring any trouble here to the channel right now. Down syndrome is what Sarah Palin's youngest son had. And you might say, if you're in your 40s and you've already got a bunch of grown kids and you probably accidentally got pregnant, or in any case, you're pregnant and you learn that if carried to term, this fetus will be born as a Down syndrome having member of society, maybe abortion should be on the table. But of course, for Sarah Palin and for people who are like-minded, oh, abortion is nowhere on the table. Abortion, like you'd better carry it to term. And you see this from the anti-abortion people. They especially put their foot down when it comes to cases of mental retardation. Excuse my language. Like in Ohio, was it that they proposed and or passed a bill in Ohio? And maybe in Mississippi, like I know I should really have these facts in front of me if I'm gonna cite them, but I've seen these news stories where like laws were proposed and or passed where even when a pregnant woman is in the window of permissible abortion by law, where it's still legal for her to get an abortion, if she's getting an abortion because she learned that the fetus will be born with Down syndrome or cerebral palsy or some other type of defect, then she may not get an abortion. So these are the people that I'm supposed to be aligned with, the Republicans, the Christians, the anti-abortion people. These are my allies, I'm told. This is better than the left. The left are opposed to freedom, but the lovers of freedom are telling a pregnant woman, if at a few months into your pregnancy or whenever into your pregnancy, you find out this fetus, if carried to term, will never really be able to live independently, and you will basically be taking care of this you'll be taking care of this child forever and ever, and statistically he's likely to die young while you're still alive as well. You must carry it to term. You especially may not abort it because of the fact that it'll be born with a terrible defect that nobody should have to live with. Nobody should have thrust upon them. Now, I suppose it may be, in your self-interest at times to carry a pregnancy to term, even if it'll have a defect for one reason or another. I'm not like ruling that out, but I mean, if for the anti-abortion people to especially go out of their way to prohibit abortion in cases where the fetus is known to have a defect, to me, it just shows their true colors. So this is what Sarah Palin magnified among Republicans. This is something that Sarah Palin brought out and brought to the forefront, and they loved it. So again, you might say like, oh, well, these guys are better than the left. At least they're relatively pro-free market. Do you really want pro-free market people that, first of all, are not really entirely pro-free market? Like they say they'll lower your taxes, but the protectionism that they're setting up with other countries is going to make everything you buy more expensive. That's one way in which their policies are making your dollar worth less. I mean, there's just so many ways in which Republicans and conservatives turn their back on free market economics. But putting that aside, do you want free market people that feel this way, or that have this policy with abortion, with regards to immigration as well, which is a whole nother topic, a whole nother can of worms, I suppose. For immigration to just be sort of like the bane of Republicans' existence just kind of shows you the fate of Republicans. So who ended up capturing the hearts of Republicans? Of course, Donald Trump. As much as the, Mark Levins and I don't know about Sean Hannity, but like the kind of relatively ideological Republicans of that side of the aisle resisted Trump. Once Trump got that nomination and once he became president, that's it. There was like no turning back. And how did he win the hearts of people on the right? Immigration, that was a big one. So again, I can understand being anti-immigration in a certain context. Let's say you say in today's context, immigrants are being given subsidies, or in today's context, immigrants are being preached multiculturalism, so they're not assimilating. So it's going to ultimately, hurt our Western values. Whatever reasons people have to be anti-immigration in today's context. Is that really the most important thing? Are you really just willing to hand the whole country over to someone like Trump because that's how important immigration is? That's how badly we need a wall built. And then how long does it take to see the true colors of a lot of anti-immigration people? It's really not about the current context. A lot of them really just don't want immigration, period, even in times of peace, even in times of prosperity and freedom, to the extent that they're still for freedom at all. Anyway, back to Sarah Palin. I know this is a little bit of a kind of stream of consciousness monologue here. Sarah Palin, the anti-abortion firebrand, and she would get invited to speak. Even so, after John McCain lost to Barack Obama, Sarah Palin was still going nowhere. Sarah Palin, she became kind of like a big shot among conservatives. She was seen as like the great hope to a lot of people, and she was outspoken. She would get invited to the CPAC, that's the Conservative Political Action Committee. I think that's what it stands for. She was all over the place. You would see her on Fox. You would see her speaking, like I said, at CPAC, and she would sort of she would criticize Obama and the Democrats. And I remember her saying to Obama, "How's that hopey changey stuff working out for you? How's all that hopey changey stuff working out for you?" Because Obama's big thing when he was running was, hope and change. We are to change. That was a bit, his two big words, hope and change. Now, listen, let's be very clear. I think Democrats at that time and to this day are not very bright. Like the fact that they just kind of were willing to follow Obama off of a cliff because he just kept on repeating hope, change, hope, change. It just, it's ominous of where the country was heading and still is heading. I'm sorry to say. It was very creepy to see that much enthusiasm around a political leader. And yeah, everything that people like Palin, not everything, but a lot of things that people like Palin would say about Democrats and the left and the media were accurate. But where does that get you? If all you are motivated by is what you're opposed to, where does that take you? Where are you going to end up? I remember Sarah Palin holding up her big gulp, the big, large size Slurpee or soda from 7-Eleven that was banned in New York by Mayor Bloomberg and his legislature. They banned the exercise drink because we need to lower diabetes. Now, of course, many of them would say our medical facilities are getting overwhelmed by obese people and it's all of our problem and we're all in this together. And I would say you need to privatize medicine. You need to privatize food, and you need to let people keep the money in their pocket and privatize health insurance, which is sort of part of what I said before, I think. And we shouldn't be in this together. Anyway, long story short, Bloomberg banned the big gulps and Sarah Palin held one up like, "Oh, I got my big gulp. Look." Okay, is that kind of gratuitous thing? Does that really get down to the essence of what liberty means? Not to me. And where did that get us? Like, where did that end up going? So, yeah, speaking of just being primarily motivated by hatred of the left, I remember Andrew Breitbart, the late Andrew Breitbart. He liked Sarah Palin. He thought she was doing great work. People like him definitely. Breitbart also liked Donald Trump back when he was making noise in the political world back in like 2010, 2011. Breitbart, to him, it was all about fighting the left and punching back and showing the left that two can play this game. And, people have speculated, how would Andrew Breitbart feel today if he were still alive? Would he be on board with Trump and all of that? I think so. I definitely could see that. I think there's a little bit of this sort of misguided nostalgia when people say like, "Oh, if Breitbart could see what would be done with his empire, he would be rolling over in his grave." Ben Shapiro said this: "If Andrew could see what would be done with Breitbart.com." Okay, really? Here's my question to Ben Shapiro. What if Ben Shapiro could see what Ben Shapiro became? Huh? How about that? Ben Shapiro left Breitbart back when Trump was running for president. He felt Breitbart was becoming too populist, too just too irresponsible and reckless, whatever reasons he gave. It was definitely when Trump was running for president that Shapiro left working for Breitbart and created the Daily Wire, or he built it. I think he created the Daily Wire. Is that right? Now the Daily Wire is huge. And my question to Ben Shapiro is, where are you going to go now? Where do you go now that the Daily Wire has become Breitbart and beyond? You've got Candace Owens as probably maybe the most popular thing on the Daily Wire. If not, she's neck and neck with Ben Shapiro, I would think. Just constantly saying, don't trust the vaccines. COVID is a hoax, and the election was rigged and stolen. Are you proud of this, Ben Shapiro? So yeah, when people say like, oh, if Andrew Breitbart could see what would come, he would not be on board with. I mean, does anyone even say that anymore though? I know I'm sort of waxing over here. Is that the word? I'm sort of just kind of figuring this out as I go, thinking out loud here. When's the last time anyone even said that? If Andrew Breitbart could see what Breitbart became, he would be rolling over in his grave. No one even says that anymore, right? At this point, people have just gotten on board with the whole populist right, or they're completely opposed to it. But I have not seen anybody fighting for the legacy of Andrew Breitbart, right? So my educated guess is Breitbart, if he were alive, would be fully on board with the direction that the right has taken. Just like Rush Limbaugh, who passed away, I guess, earlier last year, early in 2021. I remember asking after January 6th, the storming of the Capitol, asking about Rush Limbaugh, channeling the band New Radicals. Did the captain of the Titanic cry? That's what I was asking about Rush Limbaugh watching January 6th. Yeah, Limbaugh got on the radio the following day after the very unsettling event and very strongly implied that the people storming the Capitol are analogous in some way to the founding fathers of America. So yeah, that's the guy who got Breitbart to leave the left. Breitbart was, a left-leaning Democrat in California. He started listening to Rush Limbaugh on the radio, started listening to Michael Savage. Now, Michael Savage brings new meaning to the concept of, just being opposed to the left and offering nothing positive in return. Michael Savage, he is like everything Trump promised. Populism, limiting the rights of the individual in favor of community standards and family values and all of that. Just in everything people were afraid that the right would become, and it has been becoming, is what Michael Savage represented from day one, or at least for about 20 years. So yeah, Michael Savage is another guy that Breitbart was real cool with and close friends with. So, I mean, these were the guys that were like leading the conservative movement. Mark Levin, he was probably the most principled of people on the right going back, let's say 10 years ago. He railed against Donald Trump when Trump first started flirting with running for office. Mark Levin would talk about how like, this is not capitalism. This guy is not a free market. Like Mark Levin really did not want Republicans to become what they became. But at the end of the day, Mark Levin is looking out for Mark Levin, or he thinks he is. He thinks he's, being quote selfish, but really he's selling his soul to this freak show that has come of Republicans, that have come of the right, that conservatives have morphed into. So what can Mark Levin do now? Advocate for capitalism? Of course not. He'd be alienating. He'd be alienating a lot of Republicans. I mean, he probably does advocate for capitalism. I'm not saying he doesn't, but specifically, is Mark Levin trying to protect the rights of big tech? I imagine he's not. He's probably dedicating most of his energy to, restricting the border and fighting abortion, and most of all, keeping Democrats out because the left cannot be trusted. So yeah. What does all of this have to do with Sarah Palin? So these people all loved Sarah Palin. She ended up becoming quite the hero of the right. I think her sort of, I'll say cult of personality. I don't know if it was a cult, but like the admiration for her personality probably went away over time. It just sort of fizzled out. Not sure what so much she's been up to lately, but it's hard to explain to young people today just how conservatives used to talk. And as flawed as they were, and as much as they were anti-abortion and all of that, there was something about them that was like pro-individual rights in a way that is just completely gone now. Maybe I'm the one who's nostalgic. Maybe I'm the one who's misremembering the situation. But it would be very hard to convince somebody 10 years ago that one day we would be at a place where like Republicans are completely embarrassed by free market advocacy. If Ben Shapiro were to start speaking out in favor of the rights of the big tech companies, I mean, as it is, I think he's very kind of embarrassed of being the anti-protectionist guy on his network. So he's basically a guest in his own home at this point. Ben Shapiro on the Daily Wire, like Candace Owens is the star. She's the one who's anti-vax, the conspiracy nut. Ben Shapiro, he's sort of like, I don't like Trump's protectionism. No, I don't like that. Oh, where's all your fervor? Where's all your zealotry? Where's all your zeal? I should say, Ben. He saves it all for abortion. He saves it all probably for immigration. All right, everybody. Time for your favorite part of the show, the super chats. I hope that was a nice little retrospective. I was sharing some memories, and I hope you enjoyed it. Rat Lover with 10 pounds says, I agree with you, Apollo. Also, Katie Price didn't have an abortion when she was pregnant with Harvey, even though her and the father of her baby weren't in love anymore, and I don't blame her. Well, and they say that we don't have enough British pop culture on this show. Rat Lover again with 20 pounds says, I dream of a Democrat world, in quotes, but I take it seriously and want to do it intelligently and make a parody of Republican Town from Family Guy, but it be a very serious parody and change the melody line to avoid copyright. Sounds like you've got some plans. All right, everybody, thank you for joining us today. This was a nice little solo episode. Coming up at 7 p.m. UK time, which is the top of this hour, or the bottom of this hour, top of the next one, 7 p.m. UK time. Hold on a second. That was a cliffhanger. That was a tease. Marilyn with $5 says, sorry, I'm late. You let me down. I'm kidding. Thank you, Marilyn. Back to announcements at 7 p.m. UK time. Don Watkins joins the members to discuss his book, I Am Justice. It's for members only. So become a member of the Ayn Rand Center UK, link in the description. It's going to be a spoiler-filled discussion, so, be advised. Then at 8:30 p.m. UK time, it's James Valiant on Axiomatic Concepts, which is chapter 6 of Introduction to Objectivist Epistemology. Oh, that's right. You think you know philosophy? Bring your A game. Bring your questions and the super chat, and we'll see how that goes. I'm bantering over here, but yeah, that's coming up at 8:30 p.m. UK time. James Valiant is discussing that chapter of ITOE, and then at 10 p.m. UK time, it's a love poem with Kirk and Maria. Kirk Barbera and Maria Lazareva read The Canonization, a love poem by John Donne, and talk about love and sex. Now that sounds like a good time. Adults only, please. Thank you all for joining us today. We're going to jump over to Clubhouse. Maybe some of you have some thoughts and or opinions. See you there. See you back here tomorrow for the Daily Objective.